So let's talk about Nvdia and DeepSeek for a minute. So we all saw what happened, and we saw the plunge in the so-called Magnificent One stock price. Some of the headlines were a bit dramatic. $1 trillion, that was Australian dollars, I'm pretty sure, wiped off its value. Talk us through, and I know you've written a bit about this in your report, which I've read. Talk us through that situation with DeepSeek.
Okay, so this rather enterprising young chap in China, who's a hedge fund guy, by the way, we all know who we're talking about, and a real boffin, very, 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 very smart individual. The storyline is that, he cobbled together some very, very smart young people, and on a shoestring budget of $6 million or thereabouts, he built the DeepSeek model using old Nvidia chips. I think he was using primarily the Nvidia 800. As you know, China's been sanctioned, so Nvidia wasn't allowed to sell the very latest Nvidia Hopper 100 chips, and certainly not allowed to sell the very latest whiz-bang GPUs known as the Blackwells, which are just only now being sold. So this incredibly smart young guy in China basically built something as impressive as Chat GPT, and he did it open source so everyone could have a look at it. And I listened to a number of interviews with some unbelievably smart people. The founder of Perplexity, which I'm sure many of the listeners will know, is probably the best one of its kind. And I listened for 45 minutes to this incredibly in-depth interview with the founder of Perplexity. And at the end of it, realized, Eugene, that I didn't understand a word that he had said, although, of course, I will pretend that I understood, because I had so many conversations with so many people about DeepSeek. And in my first 24 hours, because of course I've been a proponent or promoter of Nvidia for some time, and a lot of my subscribers all over the world have been on the Nvidia bandwagon. So I was getting frantic. So I said to them, listen, it's going to be a bad day on Monday, because obviously all this news broke on the weekend, and I said it's going to fall off a cliff on Monday, and it'll break its 200-day moving average, which it actually did. Surprised about, but you couldn't really trade it because it just opened gap down. And of course, we know that history was made that Monday, because over $600 billion, because you're right, it was near $1 trillion Australian, was erased off the value of Nvidia in a single trading day. Now that's an all-time record. I mean, and the previous record was also Nvidia's, both up and down, by the way. The largest ever single-day gain in value for an individual company is Nvidia. The largest ever single day loss is Nvidia. So yeah, and this company's rewritten the history books. So of course we had that gap down, and then we kind of held our breath because we'd broken through, penetrated the 200-day moving average, and we hadn't been beneath that for a very, very, very long time. Let's go way back. Anyway, and it kind of hovered around there. Then we had another sell-off, and then we started getting some genuine buyers and some really smart individuals. And by the way, just for the record, and I'm not breaking any secrets here, I don't think. Then again, Eugene, I don't even know who listens to this. But anyway, that's I will tell you that the founder of Perplexity actually went and bought Nvidia shares. Now, you're talking about an individual that not only knows what the DeepSeek team did, he actually used it and leveraged his own models, large language models. And I think that was one of the things he was trying to explain in the interview, but I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I mean, we're talking amazing complexity here. And he was saying how they'd reversed this and reversed that. And instead of taking it to 300 decimal places, they took it to 8 decimal places, and then they reverse coded. And I'm just thinking, okay, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. Anyway, bottom line is some really, really interesting people started buying Nvidia. And we saw that really strong bounce. Now, don't forget, the Payne family is intimately involved in this company. My youngest son has probably been one of the world's greatest promoters of Nvidia over the last, I don't know how many years. Anyway, it looks like it's settled down. Now we've got those numbers coming up. Obviously, Nvidia is one of the largest. The last companies to produce its results, and they're going to be absolutely critical. But we do have an insight, don't we? Because Microsoft, Meta, and Google have already told us that they're not changing their spend on data centers. They are still spending the same amount. We've got Zuckerberg telling us that, hey, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened in the history of humanity, and he's not going to be left behind. And then we've got all the nonsense between Elon Musk and Sam Altman and OpenAI, and who knows what's going on there. And then we've got SoftBank and Oracle, all of them dedicating vast amounts of money to this. And then we've got a president who has told us that the United States of America will lead the AI race come what may. That the United States of America, it is a national security issue. This is a matter of national security, that the United States of America, it's like the race to putting the first man on the moon. So let's not lose sight of the extraordinary energy and dedication that the United States has. It will not be beaten by China in the AI race. It will not be beaten. And when I, plugged into some of the individuals, it was, you know what? This is going to accelerate spending.
I think in the AI space, it's definitely a global arms race.
Yes.
The thing about Nvidia is, it's obviously an extraordinary company, but because it kind of has a monopoly on it, at the moment, not only is it making a ton of money, but it can have enormous margins, and we've now seen how sensitive it is to a real. Now we don't know that this company DeepSeek is a real competitor, because at the moment it's talk. That's the impression I've got from some of the things you've said, some of the things others have said. We're not going to know whether it's a real competitor that can really challenge them for a bit of time. But the point is, because it's out there, there'll be lots of other groups like this trying to duplicate and, dare I say, improve on the sort of technology that Nvidia has. So, over time, we're probably going to see more competition in this space, which could drive down margins, etc. But for the time being, when you look at their earnings growth and you look at the fact that there isn't a real competitor, I guess it's happy days. But
you make a really important point about the margins. Look, let's just admit, there is no way that Nvidia can sustain the margins that they have. Never in history has a single company sustained margins in excess of 80%, and Nvidia's high 80s in terms of its margins. It's just not conceivable at some point in time. But how long is that some point in time? How long is the runway? I still think it's the next couple of years, but that's the Achilles heel. The Achilles heel of Nvidia are its margins, and they're not sustainable. And of course, those of us who lived through the Cisco moment in time, have long memories of what happened with Cisco. Although 2 years ago, I took head on, I took on the accusation or allegation or assertion that Nvidia was just another Cisco. That was very prevalent 2 years ago. And I said it in my report time and time again and in many speeches, that I rejected the comparison between Cisco and Nvidia. And for the last 2 years, Nvidia's done what it's done. We all know what it's done. Now, will it do what it has done over the last 2 years over the next 2 years? No. There's the law of large numbers. It just can't sustain what it's achieved in the last 2 to 3 years. But will it continue to be a remarkable company? By the way, he's bringing out an amazingly sexy, super fast PC. They don't want to call it a PC, but it is. It's gonna sell for $3,000 US. Everyone's saying it's a little bit expensive, but
Yeah.
I'm hearing of people queuing up because they just want to have an Nvidia kind of laptop equivalent on their desk.
Yeah,
There's a huge thing about that.
sure. And I mean, I guess the flip side to margins being perhaps not sustainable is the pie is going to continue to grow, right? So there'll be plenty of room for competitors, I think. Every large company, government, even probably smaller companies are investing heavily in this space. So anyway, watch this space. But it was a very fascinating thing to watch from a distance, and quite a ride if you were invested.